Interesting. Okay, so let's look into that a little more then, because I've always felt it in myself. I was always really good at aiming, but everything, all the research studies I found said that men were better in general at far projectile aiming. We'll look more into that, so you guys have to dispute with that. Let's look into that, because that might be wrong.
If you like look at it like football instead of like archery, like rugby, I know like I can't do a football.
See, okay, so this is part of it. If we just say archery, it might be in archery specifically, with the arrow, with that motion, with doing that, but it might be that throwing balls and making paper airplanes and like, this is looking at, in general, projectiles of different types. So it's different types of projectiles, including balls. All right, let's skip through these. They do better on what does that say? Disembedding. Disembedding tests in which they have to find a simple shape, such as the one below on the left, once it's hidden within a more complex figure. So that figure, that shape, you have to find among those, and there it is right there, they highlighted it, but better at finding that geometric shape in a series of bigger shapes. And men tend to perform better than women on tests of mathematical reasoning, so like word problems.
The
like
GRE.
The GRE has components, oh yeah, the analytical section of the GRE, a third of that test is the verbal, it's the mathematical, and then it's the analytical, where the word problems, where you have to like, you got a case of violins.
I mean, I just took it,
Lawrence Post GRE.
right column.
Right. So, and that is, I've grappled with this actually, word problems and putting it all together. And what I learned doing the GRE, I had to take the biology subject GRE and the general GRE, and I got the little CD-ROM, and I was doing the practicing, and I made the note cards, and I sucked real bad at the analytical section. I thought, I'm going into science, I can't suck at the analytical section. Like, what? I can think critically, this is crazy. I just was not used to seeing things in word problems. So I learned the little tricks and little trade. You have to draw stuff out. You have to make patterns. You have to make, and I'll never forget this. I got a problem on the GRE. It was the first year that it was computer-based. You all have a computer now, but it used to be old school pen and paper. The first time I went to computer, and I was like, oh my God, you can't go back. You can't go back. You just have to keep going forward. Well, I got this violin case word problem. There's 12 boxes in a violin case. And you got all these different colors of violins. You got green, purple, orange, red, yellow. The green can't go with the orange. The blue can't go with the purple. The orange has to go by the yellow. The red can't. So I'm writing all this stuff out and drawing it. Representation drawings, right? Red, no yellow, and I go, okay, I got it. And I've been practicing on the CD-ROM for like 5 months. I took a gap year, right? So I was doing all this stuff and working. And I'm trying to put the violins away, and there was no right answer. There's no right answer. I did it again. No right answer. It was like a horrible dream. Haunted me forever. So I couldn't get the right answer on the damn problem, word problem, violin case. And then it instantly got easier. So I knew right away I was changing the analytical section. Ended up with a 3% on the analytical section of the GRE. I don't know about you, but I sort of knew right away, this doesn't represent my analytical skills at all. And I had to apply to graduate schools with the 3% on the analytical section. And then I got a letter a few months later saying, we have reason to believe there's a problem with the exam. Oh, God, thank God. So I just used that little letter. Here you go. Look, it wasn't just me. I could do analytical word problems. It was bad. It was like one of those nightmares. I was sweating. I couldn't find the right answer. It was absolutely terrible. So I don't like standardized tests. I feel like a lot of times they're not representational of my true ability and knowledge, and I'm all flustered and I'm stressed and I'm like, oh my God. And I got the scores, like 3%. Like, really? What the hell? Like, I've taken tons of science classes. I could teach a lot of the science classes that I took, and I got a 3%. So, believe it or not, I got into almost every single grad program I applied to with a 3% on the GRE. But the subject GRE, I got like a 98. So they were like, okay, clearly she could think analytically on the science biology GRE. But I had to just acknowledge it and send the letter and say, look, there was a problem. I couldn't figure out the damn violins, okay? That was the problem, the violins. To this day, this was like decades ago, and I'm still like, damn violins. So standardized tests, sometimes there are gender bias, and there are gender-based problems that are on this test, even how the wording is or how they're sort of phrased. Bobby, did you want to add to that or no?
Yeah, I was just going to say, in high school when I got diagnosed with dyslexia, I had to take, it was like a 6-hour test that I had to take, and a lot of them were like different, like visual things and like what it switches, and they were like able to tell me like, oh, like you're really, really bad with like D's and P's, but you're okay with B's and D's.
Right.
Or Q's or whatever. But,
Right. But yeah, I think
it
there's a
is.
problem with some
It's
tests.
specific,
Right.
like the tests that I took were all specific to women.
Right. Right. So those are factors. So I want you to realize that, right? And know that some of those standardized tests, they are not really representative of your potential or your ability or your real knowledge. Like I knew I had to work that 3% analytical. Like I had to address it, I had to talk about it. And so now I sort of brag about it. I'm like, look, tell people your science professor got 3% on the analytical section of the GRE. There it is. You get like one difficult thing and it throws you off, and it's computer based, right? So if it's hard, you get it, it scales up. Immediately you get into a higher bracket of the overall score. If you miss it, it drops you way down, so it's almost impossible to climb back up. So standardized tests and stuff. Culture, expectations, pressures, and socialization are major factors. So we're talking about brain differences, not just body, but brain differences focusing here. We still don't know the implications of a lot of these sex-related brain differences. So while I'm telling you there's differences there, and some established things that we know how they translate to behavior or cognition or language, we don't know how all these differences really play out, or if they have any biological or social significance. Does that make sense? Some we know, some we don't. So we have to be careful about emphasizing differences. Okay? Often men and women actually will perform similarly on tasks, even with different brain activity patterns. So if you give a woman and a man a task to do, their brain activity may light up differently, but they'll perform very similarly on the test, and they'll get it done with the same accuracy or speed. Does that make sense? Okay. Oversimplifying and overgeneralizing brain gender differences. The risk for this is that it can set up self-fulfilling prophecies and unfounded stereotypes. You can see how this is done, right? We're at a time now where this is still there, but like in the 70s and the 80s and even before that, there were hardcore gender stereotypes about brain differences and cognitive ability between males and females, girls and boys. Boys were better at math and science and throwing, and girls are better at emotion and language and intuition and, cooking or whatever. And that's how it kind of came to be. Are you more left-brained or are you more right-brained? Left tends to be language and mathematics. Right, and this is true. The sides of the brain are involved. Left tends to be, I always think of LL, language and mathematics. Okay, so words and numbers, left brain. Right is more emotion, intuition, reading people, and that's a real thing, right? Picking up on social cues and people's behavior and taking in a lot of information and making sense of it. Music, the arts, dancing, singing, playing instruments, that's right-brained. Now, a lot of people will be predominantly one side or the other, but we all use both sides. It's not like, oh, I'm right-brained, so this side don't ever do anything. It's asleep. It doesn't feel like waking up. Sorry, I just can't do it. Can't do the math. That's not, we use all sides. We use both sides of our brain, and they laterally crosstalk when those things are happening. Females have more of that crosstalk between hemispheres. So I know some people, and I'm sort of this way, I'm good at math. I used to think I sucked at math, and that was just societal pressures. That was cultural things and stereotypes, and, oh, you're not good at math. I wasn't good at math. Women are not good at math. Even my math teacher used to call me windbag and call on all the boys around me. All right, Wendy, windbag. I'm like, so I just thought, I'm not good at math, whatever. But then I went away to college, and I was like, oh, my God, for biology, I need like 3 years of math. Oh, my gosh. I'm not good at math. And I already told you guys this story, but I had to really work my way up, and I did it. I was good at math. It was fine. I could outpace the rest of the males in my class. I was like one of 2 females, and I had the highest grade in math class. And this is coming from someone that always believed I was not good at math, not good at math. That was a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I had to just scrap that and go, you know what? I want this so bad, I just got to work extra hard. So I have the right brain, sort of the musical, dancey, artsy side. I paint, I draw, I make jewelry, I do all that stuff. And then I got the language, mathy, sort of more quantitative side. So, and many people do. Many people they have a balance of those different sort of talents and traits and stuff that they have. Yeah,
So
Alec.
this is really interesting because I read, and you can look it up, that in Seattle they're starting to teach that math is oppressive. And
Math as a what?
they're starting to say that to teach that math is oppressive, and they're starting to open up more ethnic studies classes and making math optional.
Yeah.
That's what, yeah. So I found, yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know how I feel. Well, I do know in the math department, even like here, and in math programs, around the country, they're changing math requirements to get in colleges and universities, and like geometry and trigonometry, they're making these little changes. But in general, math is still really a core component of any sort of primary school versus secondary college education to understand math. Because it's a way of critical thinking as well. It teaches you how to critically think. And so I know even here, our math department, there are ways of teaching and making sure that you are doing it in a good way that is good for both males and females with their learning, and making sure that everybody has equal opportunity to do well. They even do things like Zoom tutoring and like online tutoring, where you can, with the math professor, they can do stuff like online, and you can zoom into that, so you get access to help whenever you want. I personally think math is very important. Even if people think, oh, I'm not that good at it, I suck, because I got my mom telling me that for decades. I was horrible. My dad was so good. He would make me cry. I could never figure it out. You got my math genes. And she didn't do, she just thought that. Like, we just weren't good at math. But the boys in the family were really good at math. So I had to prove them all wrong. Okay, so and I still don't particularly like it. It's more dry for me than science, like biology and figuring stuff out about the human body. But I had to do it, and I got good at it. So we have to be careful about stereotypes and just saying, oh, males are better at this because of this, and females are better at that because of this. Countries where they have less gendered stereotypes, places in Europe, Netherlands, Sweden, Norway, some of those higher latitude countries, where they don't have those, women tend to perform better at science and math. Okay, so right away that tells you, wait a second, okay, there's not this like biological brain difference between males and females that makes males more predisposed to science and math. And that's why at the beginning I said I'm a STEMist, okay? Because that's really what the facts show. It's some of these things come from societal pressures and stereotypes and things that are perpetuated. So, true biological sex differences exist, and they can be used actually. So the flip side of this, we have to be careful about that. But the important side of this is that these real brain sex differences and other differences in the body, we can use those to improve better care and medicine for males and females, okay? Because it can help improve the diagnosis and treatment of many different diseases. So we can't just say the male and female body is the same and they're going to respond the same. We know that's not the case. It's not true. So we don't want to say, oh, we're exactly equal, we're the same. We're not. We're different. We have to embrace those differences and use them in a good way to make sure we improve medicine for all genders, male, female, and in between. Yes? Okay, so I'm going to go on. That's the end of those. I'm going to start sexuality, because sexuality continues the same sort of vein. Question, Christina?
No, I was just to the point of in other countries. I took
Yeah.
a class, Gender in the Classroom,
Yeah.
and we read an article. I think it was based out of Finland, where women actually were the ones leading in STEM fields, and like how women were actually better at math, and they created a system in which math was more equal, like friendly as opposed to pertain to just like men, like it's a male-dominated field, and I thought that was really interesting. That women actually
Very good. Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of those where they don't hold on to these gender stereotypes, and we see that a lot. Women actually really doing well and predominating in some of these historically male-dominated fields, in some of the STEM fields. Actually, here at St. Mary's, do you guys know that the STEM fields, even at St. Mary's just a decade ago, were even lucky to be close to 50-50 male-female. Now it's 71-29 female.
Yes.
So it's changing. The numbers are changing, and in the arts and different areas of the arts, there's not as much change. So in the STEM fields, there's definitely more of a change with the genders. So this goes into human sexual behavior and sexuality, which sort of encompasses some of the things that you guys were asking. We were talking about differences between men and women and different sex differences. So we'll talk about reproductive behavior, how we compare to other mammals, gender identity and sex roles. And I feel like a lot of you guys, especially WAGs, majors, and psychology and stuff, you'll know a lot about this already. So some of this is going to be review for you, so just bear with me. Sexuality and sexual orientation. Oh, so mammalian reproductive behavior, this is really cute. This is 2 grade 8 flow gorillas just getting all cute and like intimate. So I'm going to talk about ways that we're similar to other mammals in the animal kingdom, and then how we're different, how we're uniquely human. And there's some sort of myth busting throughout some of these lectures that hopefully at the end you'll be like, okay, I know the truth to that, and that is myth, and that is truth. So reproductive cycles and sexual behavior. We have seasonal breeders of animals versus all year. Humans are considered non-seasonal or all year. That means they don't have a specific season where they ovulate and they breed and they conceive. Other primates are also all year, and some tropical animals like fruit bats and different neotropical species are also all year. Weather is good, climate is good, they breed all year. Female sexual receptive behavior, that means showing signs of have receptivity for sex or coitus, okay? That usually happens around the time of ovulation, and we consider that estrus behavior. These are animals or mammals that show estrus behavior. They actually show sexual receptivity right at the time of ovulation. So they get the estradiol increase, they get the LH surge, and the female animals act in certain ways to let the male know, look, you better do it now because I'm ovulating. Females don't really do that, right? We don't walk around like, I'm ovulating right now. Right now's the time. No, we don't even really know. But I will say some women know when they ovulate. I know. There's a little twinge, a little pain that comes right near the ovarian ligament when you ovulate. And it's called Mittelschmerz. It's called Mittelschmerz. And it goes, neat. It's like a tinge. You're like, ooh, I just ovulated. A lot of people don't realize that's what it is. But I've asked friends, like, do you ever feel that little twinge? It's not a cramp. It's like a little mini, deep cramp, like a pull, like someone's pulling at a little string. That's right when ovulation happens.
Oh my god.
If you ever wondered what that is, it's called Mittelschmerz. You can look it up. And it's the feeling of that hemorrhaging follicle, the ovulation, and then the egg getting picked up by the fibria. All right, but you don't have that feeling and then act weird. Okay, so we don't have estrus. We actually have, and cats actually do this. Have you ever seen female cats? Okay, they do lordosis. It's called lordosis. They arch their back and they put up their tails and they walk over like in front of the cats, right? Their butts like up in the air. They're like, woo, flag, look at me. Women don't do this in general. I mean, sometimes they go out and they, go clubbing and look all fit, but they're not, and they're dancing, they're doing but it's not really, I know I'm taking this in a weird direction, I'm sorry. I'm a little goofy today. I've set up a whole lab practical for anatomy after this, my brain is scrambled. So, estrus cycle versus menstrual cycle. Estrus has behavioral changes that happen at ovulation to signify to the partner, hey, I'm ovulating. Menstrual cycle, which you learned all about, we spent like a week on it. Be prepared, that's on the exam. Got to know the menstrual cycle, know the hormones. A couple of you on your cards, it's hard to keep track of them, which hormones go up and where. Just go through and trace them and draw them on there, on that little plot of hormone level versus time. So we have a menstrual cycle with all those different phases. We don't have an estrus cycle. So that sets us apart from most of the mammals. There's also no estrus in a few other primates, so the great apes, baboons, some of the monkeys, bats, and shrews. So we're in this group of a certain set of mammals, including the great apes, our closest extant living relatives, where we diverged off, right, from another common ancestor. They also don't have an estrus cycle. Humans have menstrual, not estrus cycle. All right, so I know some of these are cheesy. I like to put in little funny little pictures, and some of these get a little risque. I was going through these, and my friend was like, dear God, what are you making? I'm like, oh, this is for my women's bio course. And they're like, wow. And when I Google search for some images, because I like to get, the stuff that comes up, I have to be careful. I can't be at Starbucks. Because I look crazy. I look like something is wrong with me. I'm like, mammals mating. And then just porn sites start coming up. I'm like, oh gosh, okay. And this is St. Mary's laptop. But they know I teach about sex, so it's fine. I can usually say it's for her class. Okay, it's fine. What purpose might have concealed ovulation served in the evolution of humans and early human beings? If the male doesn't know when the female is ovulating, no idea. There are mood and behavioral changes that happen throughout the cycle for many women, but there's no signifying, boop, lordosis like the cats, I'm ovulating. What purpose might that have served? Just think about that for a second. Yes, Lex?
Is it something to do with the risks that females often face of being raped?
The risks of being raped? I don't know. That might be a factor. That's one thing. Let's hold on to that. Yeah.
Does it
Alex?
did it give women more of a, position to select their partner?
Mate selection power. Okay. I'm going to hold on to that. That's a good one. Yes, Bobby.
It takes more of a toll on our bodies, and it takes up 9 months.
Right.
And we can't have as many babies as
Right.
a lot of other mammals can.
Right. So female humans have to be very selective. So I think you guys sort of hit it right. They have to be very selective. You actually And in that process, you want to be really selective about mate choice, right? We make fewer gametes, they die over a lifetime, that we run out, we have menopause, we only have a certain fertility window. Pregnancy is long, lactation is long, all of that is a huge energetic process. So if the male potential suitor, courting, has no idea when the female's ovulating, right, neither of them do, to actually ensure that the offspring is his, there has to be some courtship involved. There has to be some work and some effort in dating. Otherwise, I say it like we're talking about early human beings, okay, like cavemen. But there had to be they want to sort of guarantee that I'm not going to lose the potential fertility window with my mate. So it required effort and work on the part of the male. Otherwise, that female will go off to another potential suitor. Oh, he's bringing me extra mammoth meat. He brought me some extra berries. And he's really sweet. He's bringing me all kinds of little goodies. Like, I like him better. And he's around. He's around. When I need him, he's always around. Okay, it hasn't changed a whole lot, okay? We're going to talk about that in attraction, sexual attraction, and all that. But in general, I think it created sort of a dynamic between the sexes that has been there for millions of years, actually, in the history of humans. I'll end on this one, because we're not quite there. We're almost there. What sets us apart, though, because other mammals also have menstrual cycles, like the great apes, like us. But what sets us apart from the rest of the animal kingdom? Okay, so I'll let you end on this one. Our social cognitive capacity and emotional intelligence. Okay, so we can be aware, even compared to our extant primate cousins, the great apes, we can take the psychological perspectives of our partners into account. So their well-being, their thoughts, their feelings. We think about the other person in general, right? So we have empathy and connection. We're also the only species to have prolonged foreplay and kissing, face-to-face coitus. The anatomy of the human female body actually changed. So we are no longer like the rest of the animals where they only have to rear mount. Okay? The female hips, and we'll study this in lab, the hips, the pelvis, the structure becoming upright changed the way that human beings had coitus. Okay? So and that's a big component. Face-to-face coitus was brand new, really. Multiple sexual positions were also one of the only, but most of the other animal kingdom is rear-mounted, that's it. Okay? It's not that it can't, we just have multiple. Intense female orgasms, this is also unique to human beings, for the most part, as far as we can measure. Ability to communicate during coitus, okay, so like speaking words, communicating. Care for the partner and their pleasure. Those are all the things that sort of set our sexual behavior apart from the rest of the mammals in the animal kingdom. So I'll end on that little sexy note. We'll come back to this on Wednesday.